From Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia, I'm Joe Vina. This is the Daily Creature. Thank you for joining us, friendos. It is Mythical Creature Week here at the Daily Creature. Today's creature of focus is, of course, the dragon. And I'm super excited about this. If you joined us for yesterday's mythical creature, the unicorn, then you did hear a rather unfortunate call I had with Dragon. Dragon was going to be here. He won't be here. A reminder, he's one representation of dragons. There are so many dragons. Kind of glad he didn't come in, to be honest, with all due respect. He had a few requests for the show, which I'm happy to accommodate. One was that I wear a jacket. He said, fancy it up a bit. And he wants some Shakespeare to appear somewhere in there. I'm sure we can make that work, you know? Just have to figure out who this Shakespeare is. Friends, I brought this snake out here. He's a wooden snake. He's not a dragon, of course. But when we consider dragons, we have to consider the many, many animals of the real world that go into the makeup of the dragon. Snakes and serpents influence dragons big time. But so do lions, so do dinosaurs, alligators. They tend to be very reptilian, dragons do. But really, it all depends on where your dragon is from. We're going to get in a little deeper regarding dragons. Let's talk it out for a moment. Dragon background, you know what I mean? A quick mystery lesson with bonus painting fun. That's right. Here we go. So, I prepared a couple of references, and friends, as I will always do, I encourage you to go further than my little bits and bursts of research here. Go as far as you like with it, you know, really look into it. What I'm going to address here, dragon-wise, right now, is your Western European dragon versus your Eastern dragon. I kind of went reference-wise when I created this drawing that I then painted with some watercolor. I looked closely at Chinese dragons, and why don't we speak about that dragon first? But again, this is your Eastern versus your Western dragon. Your Eastern dragon, you're going to see antlers often. That's what these guys are here. I kind of wish I'd put them further back this way, but they're sticking up. There it is. Your Eastern dragon is going to have the large eyes, nostrils. Typically, you'll see some snaggle teeth. A lot of hair, a lot of fur. I feel like the Eastern dragon, there's something a bit more mammalian or mammal-like. Typically with the Chinese dragons, you would see them holding the pearl of wisdom, a ball in one of the claws, one of the front claws usually, I believe. And that tends to represent planet, holding the moon, holding the sun, great power. You got fur at the end of the tail. A lot of the dragons I saw, Eastern dragons represented, had a kind of a gold and red color to them with a lot of orange, bright, fiery colors. But of course, these dragons come in many, many varieties, and this is again why I encourage you to look further into these things, because this is tip of the iceberg surface stuff that I'm talking about. But it certainly helps launch into an art project, I would say. These guys often have the whiskers, right? These long, crazy whiskers as well. And the body, so snake-like, a lot of twists and turns with your Chinese dragons and your East Asian dragons. You've got ears, almost a lion-like face, if I didn't say that. Now let's jump over here to our unpainted dragon, the Western dragon, and we will paint her, him, it. We will paint this as well, but right away you're going to note wings, overall a more reptilian look, dinosaurish, dinosaur-esque, typically horns, scales, whereas our Eastern's got the hair kind of that runs down, sometimes all the way down the body. Get a little bit of a beard here on this guy as well. I particularly like to do kind of that heavy jaw that you see in crocodiles or the T-Rex for a dragon like this, and the horns. Your Western dragon tends to have ears as well, some sort of representation of ears, wings, the barbed tail. Sometimes they stand on two legs, sometimes four. Guarding gold or treasure tends to be something that these guys do. And I think whereas these are a bit more positive, and powerful symbols. And here you have often menacing and greedy characters in the Western dragon as well. I could go on and on and on. Friendos, seek out dragon info for yourselves. There's a lot out there. You know, dragons are elemental too, right? So you have your ice dragons, your fire dragons, etc. Look into it. So cool. East dragons, west dragons. I'm going to move our eastern dragon. You take one more look at her, him, they. You're going to go ahead and make your own eastern dragon. And, you know, you can always go back to that image to check it out if you need to. Friends, what you'll need for this, and again, there was a drawing portion to this, but I've done that already. You guys have seen me draw. You know how that goes. I have these wonderful watercolor paints, quite a wide array, rather inexpensive paints that I got, I believe, at Michael's. It's a larger set, too big for the shot really, and we're going to be focusing up in these cooler greenish colors here. The paint set is a bit of a mess. I share it with my roommate Henry, but he's 3. He's my son as well, dear family member and a pal. A little bit of water I'm going to set on the side here. And that, of course, will be helpful with our watercolor paints. They're like little, most likely tempera-based, tiny little cake paints. Again, inexpensive. And are they the best paints in the world? We're certainly not dragons. They're not the best paints in the world, but they'll do for now. I've got a couple of squares of paper towel. Keep those on the side here. And I've got a couple of brushes that we'll use, slightly larger and the super small, but really 2 small brushes. It's a rather small drawing, as it turns out. And this is the guy I'll use quite a lot. Always good, friends, to have a nice fine point brush at your disposal. And I'm going to lay out a base color on him, a kind of a lighter green, I think. I'm going to dip into the water just a bit. And I'm going to go into, let's say, this light green here. Going a little bit more there. And I'm going to keep it fairly simple and straightforward here, friends. I'm going to gently hit this dragon. I like that it almost would have a kind of a wash effect. Just a kind of a, so you're hitting it with greenish water. And there are parts I'm going to paint and there are parts I'm going to leave alone momentarily, because I will add a different color of paint. Friends, you can see that I'm careful to kind of gently move around my scales, which of course I think I'd like to make another color. And I'm going to avoid this throat area, but I think I'll come down here. I'm going to avoid underneath here. We're going to make that a kind of a yellowish color, his belly and his neck, and maybe under the tail there. But we're going to keep this lightish green going throughout the rest of the body of the beast. The webbing within the wings, I will definitely make a different color, a lighter green of some kind, even a light blue maybe, or a yellowish color. But I am thinking that the general color scheme for my Western dragon here, my greedy gold guarding Western dragon, the basic color scheme is going to be in the greens, the blues, the cool colors. And that's going to match kind of for me with his reptile thing that he has going. Now, I might save some of those tighter spots down there, the fingers or claws rather on my dragon for the small brush. But I am going to hit as much as I can with this green right now. I look at it as sort of, I'd like to wrap on that color, so to speak. You know what I mean? I would like to be finished with it. I'd like to wrap up on that color. And it's all rather like a coloring book here. I've done the drawing part already. So much of the detail of what I've done, I've used my line to get there. Now, That's one way to do it, friends. Is that the right way to do it? Of course not, because we are not operating in rights and wrongs. That is just the choice that I made. In my opinion, again, my opinion, because I've done these details already in my drawing, the coloring part of it, the painting part of it, I wouldn't say it's less important, but there's less pressure. I'm very happy with the way that the hand-drawn details came out on my dragon. If I could just hit her with some color, I will soon be quite happy with the piece, and I will call it the F word, finished. That's right. It's nice to be able to say, hey, finished. Finished. So, going in here and painting the knee. I like these little sort of spikes. I'm going to leave those for now unpainted, as I will the claws. And the plan here, once I've gotten the green in all of the places that I want it to be, will be to use a darker green to kind of shade in a bit, and some of that yellow for the belly. I like that that's kind of light there. Leave that in water for a moment. Time for a finer brush. I'm going to hit these same colors, but I'm going to go in with my finer brush, which you can tell is carrying a bit more concentrated color right now. When you're working with water-based paints like this, watercolor, you should be aware of how much of that color you're using on your brush versus how much water. If there's more paint and less water, you're going to get a more concentrated color, in some cases a brighter, or you could even say a darker representation, just more of that color, versus that very washy sort of look. I do feel a dragon's worth of pressure to tell you people that, I love painting, but I don't paint quite as much as I draw or I sculpt. So when I paint, I'm often in a kind of a new world where I make choices. Artistically speaking, I make choices, but I'm often not quite as sure or confident of my choices. And would you believe it, friends and neighbors, that I like working that way as much as I like working with total confidence? Isn't that funny? Because with the painting, even though I feel I have less experience, when I do pull something off, I get to say, cool. I don't know everything, and I never will, but maybe I know a little bit more than I did before I started the project. You see what I'm saying? Very light touch here just to get call them the fingers of the wing. That is not probably the scientific term, but they're like hands, right? In this dragon, you see wings that are very bat-like. Now, some dragons could have cool bird wings, right? Some dragons have the kind of magic that they don't even need wings to fly, I'm guessing. And of course, some dragons don't fly. They're just ground-bound dragons. Ground-bound dragons. I'm starting a band. We're calling ourselves Bilbo Baggins and the Ground-Bound Dragons. Sorry. It's really horrible when someone chuckles at his own joke. What could be worse? So, here we are. Good covering with the lighter green. I'm going to grab this bigger brush again. And I am going to go ahead and go with a kind of a yellowy, goldy kind of a color here. A light amount of it, and I'm going to go into the belly of the dragon, belly of the beast here, down at the tail base as well. And at this point, friends, I'm basing this on kind of like on dinosaurs and what I know about dragons. I like to draw dragons quite a bit and color them as well, and this is kind of the way I go with it. The greens and the yellows. That's some blues thrown in. Maybe some brighter colors for the horns and spikes and such. But all in all, I believe you get the gist. You can continue to observe my painting, but perhaps we should do it in high speed. And keep in mind, as you watch this high-speed painting, keep in mind which brush I'm using. Take note. And let's speed like a dragon. And there you have it, friends, more or less. Painted Western Dragon. A quick one. Fun stuff. Keep it up. I mean, if you really reach out and you're really in touch with the other dragon, well, that really is something to strive for, I think. I really do. Yeah, it's just so pathetic if one doesn't do that. Of course, there's a problem because the closer you come, I think, to another dragon, the more completely mysterious and unreachable that dragon becomes. Hi, I'm rehearsing my play. It's called My Dragon with Andre, based on a wonderful film from 1981 directed by Louis Malle called My Dinner with Andre, written by and starring Andre Gregory and Wally Shawn. Now, Wally Shawn, he is, well, you'd probably know him as Rex the Toy Dinosaur, but I know him as one of my most favorite playwrights and essayists, a wonderful artist. Inconceivable. Fantastic. Friends, I found this wooden stage around my house, and I thought to myself, I should put on a play. And here we are. I've created some paper characters, paper backdrops, rather cardboard backdrops. Do you have a little stage like this around the house? Could you make one if you don't? Do you have a bigger area that could be a stage? What am I getting at? It's just this. Folks, have you considered putting on a play? Consider it. Put on a play at home. Put on a play for your family. Put on a play for your cat. Write it. Perform it. Now is the time. When you consider the arts, friends, it doesn't have to end at drawing or painting or sculpture. There's a whole world of the arts at your fingertips. And theater, putting on plays, telling each other stories in person, that's one of the oldest art forms. And it's a great one. So do it. Put on a play. I can't wait to see your play. Dragon doodling when we should be listening to the Seven Ages of Man speech from As You Like It by William Shakespeare. Yes, friends, as I've told you before, I prefer to do my doodling when I should be doing something else. I love what happens when I'm drawing, when I really should be listening to something else. It's a bit naughty of me, I'm afraid, but that for me sort of defines doodling. So I'm going to be doing some wonderful dragon doodles, and I've been doodling dragons for a long time. I draw dragons sort of absent-mindedly, little ones, big ones, Eastern, Western, you name it. So that's the kind of doodling you'll see. I encourage you to do your own doodling. Doodle dragons or doodle something else. It is up to you, as is often the case, friends. But here comes our speaker. He is a dragon. He's an American dragon, an actor, American actor dragon. But he fancies himself more of a John Gielgud dragon, if you know what I mean, heavily into Shakespeare. And he's got the flowing sleeves and the whole bit. And, let's imagine that we've been listening to Dragon Shakespeare monologues all day. And at this point, all we want to do is put our heads down into our sketchbooks and do some doodling. And here comes Sir George Dragon right now. Oh boy. Oh, and before he gets here, I'll be working with a Copic multiliner, and it's a 1.0, bit marker-like. Used it before on this program. Fun stuff. But you doodle with whatever you want. Pencil, pen, marker, what have you.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy with his satchel, and shining morning face creeping like snail unwillingly to school, and then the lover, sighing like a furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow, then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even in the cannon's mouth, and then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose well saved, a world too wide, for his shrunk shank and his big manly voice, turning again toward childish treble, pipes, and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all, that ends this strange eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion, sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
Well, I didn't quite catch what he was saying, but I was able to doodle out a kind of a two-headed dragon creature here. I don't know if you'd call this thing a dragon. It's certainly dragon inspired. Might get this guy a little more on the head there. From here I could color this, or I could flip it over and start something fresh, or I could go make a sculpture. And scene. I just got him to sleep. Ow! Popular culture creature quiz, ladies and gentlemen, direct from the Daily Creature. Here we go. I'm going to give you the names of 3 different dragon characters. Could be from movies, could be from a book. Your task, name the story that dragon character comes from, describe that dragon character, and come up with not 1, not 2, but 3 other characters, they don't have to be dragons, from the story that dragon appears in. Are you ready for the 3 dragon names? Here we go. Put on your creative thinking caps. Smog, Toothless, and Falcor. Again, those dragons are Smog, Toothless, and Falcor. All 3 beloved characters from which story, movie or book? Name 3 other characters from that story and describe that dragon. There's your quiz. You take the quiz, or take the quiz and give the quiz to your family. Give the quiz to your cat. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. A tray, you can do it. Friends, that about says it for today's episode. Today's episode, of course, was dragon, but I certainly hope today's episode wasn't dragon. We try to keep it upbeat. We try to keep it peppy here. Friendos, I will see you soon from Ix Art Park in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm Jovina. This has been your Daily Creature. Please do stay creative.